All right, good morning, children. Um, this is your coding teacher, Mr. Yinka. Um, Sorry, I'm doing this late, quite a bit late, but it's better late than never. So I will just want us to, I'll be dropping some videos for you on coding so that it can help aid your understanding of computer coding. And then you can learn on your own and practice on your own. Because I believe if I do examples here and we go through it, it will help you to understand how you can get to the adventure of coding on your own without having to depend on anyone. All right, so what I'll be doing here is introducing you. That is an introductory video telling you about what Scratch is and then how the interface and what the interface and how to navigate, find your way through the interface, then what the blocks are and what they do. We'll be explaining. I'll try as much as possible to explain all the blocks. Just join me as we begin. So what is Scratch? What is Scratch? Scratch is an high-level block-based visual programming language. When I say high level, we have low-level language, we have assembly language, and we have machine language. The high-level language is English-like, that you can relate with simple English. And then when I said it is block-based, it is not like the conventional programming where you type in the code. It is block-based. You pick from a set of blocks, and you'll be seeing it when I'm sharing my screen. And then it is also runs on a website, although you can install it and run it as an app. And when you build your program, you can build your program in such a way that you can run it on yourself. You can install it on a system or on a tablet, that's Android, and run it. And you can also run it on a website, that you can deploy your program on a website, HTML, and then you can deploy it as an app. So also, one thing about Scratch is primarily targeted at age 8 to 16, which I'm sure you all fall under this group. That is why we are starting with Scratch this term. Then we'll move on to other higher software that we feel will be useful to you. So basically, users that write Scratch programming language are usually called Scratchers. So from today, I'll be addressing you as Scratchers. All right, so excuse me. All right, so let me share my screen so that we can go right into the Scratch environment. All right, so let me share my sound, please. All right, so this is the Scratch environment. This is the Scratch environment. I'll be taking off my picture, my video, so as not to distract you in this adventure. I know we've done some of these things before in our last class, but I would also like to go over it again as much as I could. So I told you up here is language. Primary language is English. Here is file where you can save your program and where you can load programs from your computer, or where you can start programs. This is edit. Basically, there isn't much here. Here you can have access to inbuilt tutorial. Here is where you name your present program that you are writing, give it a name. So coming down here to the left side of the screen are the codes. And the codes are categorized. We have motions, we have looks, we have sound, we have events, we have controls, we have sensing, we have operators, we have variables, and we have my blocks. And we'll be exploring all this. Just beside it, the tab beside it, you have the costumes. This costume is the costume of the current Scratch, which is this cat that we have here. It has two costumes. It has two costumes, basically. You can also here, you can paint your own sprites. You can paint your own sprites. Let me just paint a sprite. Oh, sorry. Let me go back, not here. Click here, click on this pen to paint. Then it gives me a brown, blank, and my sprite can be a circle, purple. Change the color to whatever. Let me just make it green. Okay, good. I can make the green darker. Change the shade of the green. Okay, this is my sprite. All right, so you can you can create a sprite basically. Then we have sound here. You can make use of the sound. When we get to the sound category, we know what you can do with the sound. You can import sound from the sound library. There are several sounds. These are categories of sound that you have: animal, effects, loops, notes, percussion, space, sports, voice, and wacky. If you hover on any one of them, hear the sound. One of them. Let me go to percussion. So that is how it works. You make use of any of this sound, and you can record your own sound. You can click on the recording here, and then you record your sound. All right, so we'll be exploring that too as time goes on. Now, here down, okay, here is your block, is your coding area where you set your blocks and write your program, this blank white space. And here is your design view. I like to call this place, just like I did in our class. I said, this is the back end. This is where your coding takes place. And this is the front end. This is where users get to see. This is the user interface or graphic user interface. And here is the back end where your code is. You know, when you play games on your phone, you don't see the games, you don't actually see the code that is running. It runs at the background. So that is what you get to see. That is what you see. But then you get to see only the front end. The real magic is at the back end here. All right, so, and down here is the property tools of the selected sprite. Properties here. And then you have several sprites here. You can, just like the sound, you can load sound from this sprite from the sprite library of different category: animal, people, fantasy, dance, music, sport. And if you over on them, you will see the different costumes they have. They have different costumes. That is why you see them appears as if they are motion, they are moving. They are just changing costumes, basically. So if you hover on them, you will see what you can do. And then you have food, you have fashion, you have letters. So you can make use of any of these sprites, and you can create your own sprites, and you can also upload sprites from outside. All right, so the same thing with backgrounds. You have backgrounds, you have, you can choose from the background and the background library. You have fantasy, sports, outdoor, indoor, space, underwater, patterns. All right, so, and this is all. You can select it, and you can also create a background. You can paint your background. You can upload from external file, that is maybe from online or from your computer, and then you can search from the library. You can pick from the library. You can search, choose. It's also the same thing. All right, so having explained the interface, let's go to the code. Now, this is the motion code. But before the motion code, I'd like to explain the event blocks. The event blocks is more like the most important blocks that you cannot do without in every program that you're going to write. Then it controls the events. It responds based on some event that take place. Like for instance, the common one is this when flag click. This flag is a run button. We use it to run every program. So if I bring it out now, when I click this flag here, this green flag here, go, it runs the program. And this stops the program. All right. So we have another event here. When spacebar, it's actually keyboard. When you press any key on the keyboard, you can see all the alphabet keyboard, all the numbers keyboard, and the direction keyboards. When you press any of this, it takes it reacts to the code that is underneath it. All right. When this sprite click, when you click on the sprite, like this card or this one that you painted, and you click on it, you can actually rename your sprite. Like this one showing sprite 2 here, I can change it to my sprite, one word. All right. So that's the name. And that's the name it should keep bearing throughout this entire program. So when you click on the sprite, it runs the code that will be put in underneath it. When backdrop switch, that is when you switch your backgrounds. There are several backgrounds, just like I told you. You can add a background. Let's add one background. Let's see. Let me just add this. Okay, so you can switch backgrounds. Here's the Malibu beach. Here's the backdrop. So when you switch to Malibu beach, then you should run the code that will be underneath, under here. And when loudness or timer increases or decreases to a value, then you run the code. When I receive a message, you can create a message. I create a new message, call it my message. And then you can use that message. So when I receive my message, then if you run that program, broadcast, you can broadcast a message, you can broadcast my message, and then you can, it will take effect. Then you can broadcast and wait. So let me go back to motion, because we'll be using this alongside the motion. Let me just leave this one flag click. On motion, we have move 10 steps. I click on this. Now, currently, I am on this sprite. This is my sprite. So if I click move 10 steps, that my sprite will move. Can you see it? It's moving as I'm clicking the green flag. Now, same thing if I click on here, on the cat, see it's blank because there's no code under it. So you can also actually code on any particular sprite. So let me make use of the cat. I'll be making use of the cat now. Turn 15 degree. I click on this, it turns 15 degree. Let me turn 15 anti-clockwise. So let me pull this out to straighten it. Okay, that's how it is. All right, I can change this value to 180. Let's see, 180 degree. Turn 180 degree, see? That's 180. It actually flipped 180. So, all right, so let me say 90. Let me say minus 90. You can put a negative value, that's 90. You can see. That's 490 make 360. That's it. All right, so when I go to a random position, if I make use of this, you see, to go to a random position, when I go to X minus 172, y minus 61. I explained to us in our class that this background here is divided into x and y coordinates. The x coordinate is the horizontal line, the imaginary line here. And then we have the y, which is the imaginary vertical lines here. Now, if I say when I go to this position, let me come here. That's the current position, so I move it away. When I click it, it goes back to that position. It goes back to that position. It goes back to that position. All right, so glide, it glides to a random position. It glides to a random position. Then glide to x and y. Glides, let me change, because that's the current position. Let me change it here. Glides, it will glide there. I put it here. To glide there. All right, point in direction 90 degree. Point in direction 90 degree will, okay. Let me change it to this, something like this. To point in that direction. And that's all. All right, so point towards mouse. Point towards mouse. To point towards where my mouse is. If I put it here, and I click here, point towards my mouse. All right, so that's it. Change x by 10, 10. You change x by 10. Change y by 10. See, y is the vertical line. If I put minus 10, it will go down. It will be going down. As I said, y is the imaginary line. 0.00 is at the center, somewhere at the center of the screen. Going down, you go negative. Going up, you go positive. Similarly, if you are going back here, back like this, you are going negative x. If you are going forward here, you are going positive x. And I'm sure you have done graph and you understand how it works. So we'll be using this. Your knowledge of graph will also help. Set x to minus 75. It's currently at minus 75. If I move here, if I click it to go back there. That's x. Then y. If I set x, y is currently at minus 100. Let me move it here. I click here to go back to that 100. All right, so if on edge bounds, we used it in our last program, let me do something. Okay, oh, back. I want it to, let me just keep it standing in direction 90. Good. I want to make it stand up right. All right, so let me just say I put a control and I pick a forever loop. I'll still explain it. And I put motion. I said put move 10 steps. And I had if on edge bounds. This is what it does. It will do. Basically, the sprite is meant to go, continue to move and enter into this area, and you won't see it again. But if I have this if on edge bounds, when it gets to the edge, it turns back. Can you see this? Now, to make it more interesting, let me stop it. I'll click the stop button here. To make it more interesting, I can add my costume. Let me go to looks. Next costume. Let me add my next costume. And let's see what it does. You see? Okay, we don't like how it's tilting. We want to make it work straight. We change the direction from 90 to 180 so that it will move on a straight line. Or you can just click here, left, right. Then that's all. Now the cat is actually moving, right? All right, so that is that. Let me move to looks. Looks actually say hello for 2 seconds. To say hello for 2 seconds, that's all. Say hello, to say hello, to stay there, to stop the program. Think for 2 seconds, think for 2 seconds. To think, just use it to show an expression. Switch costume to costume 1. To switch to costume 1. Switch costume to costume 2. To switch costume to costume 2. Next costume, we have used it here. Next costume, if you change costume to next costume, it will be changing. Let me run this program and show you what is happening, actually happening at the costume level. It's actually changing these costumes. It's actually changing that costume. All right, so enough of the costume thing. Switch backdrop to Beach Malibu, or you can switch backdrop to backdrop 1. You click on it to change to backdrop 1. That's the background. Next backdrop, similar to next costume. Change size by 10. 10, it will go bigger, it will go bigger. If you put it -10, it will go smaller. Go smaller. Set size to 100%. Let's say it's smaller, then you set it back to 100%. It comes back to the original size it is. Change color. You can change effects. Let's see. Let's play around this effect and see. Change color by 25. Let's see. See the color is changing. If you change it, let's say by 10 by 10. It's changing, but very slow. See. All right, so that's change color. You can also change fish eye. Let's see that. See what is happening. Let me take it back. Add a minus there. To go back. Right. Change wells. Okay. Let me clear graphics. Okay. Let me also check this pixelated to make it pixel. You know, I told you about pixel, the tiny dots that you cannot see on the screen. You can actually see it now. You can see that dot coming out. It's increasing the pixel. You can see those dots. These are the dots that come together to form image on the screen. So clear graphics, Mosaic. You can play around this Mosaic. Clear graphics, brightness. All right, so clear graphics. Let's see one more ghost. I'm actually not seeing anything. Maybe I should increase it to 50. Okay, that's disappeared. Oh, it's posting the image. All right, this is to show, this is to hide. You hide, you show. You hide, you show. You go to front if you have 2 overlapping sprites like this. You can move to the back. Move it to the back. Then you can bring it back to the front. Go forward 1 layer. Right? If you have several sprites, you can move it. You can arrange them in layers. This costume number tells you the number of costume backdrop. It displays the number of backdrops. Size, it displays the size. Easy to display. All right, on the sound, I told us about the sound. So you can play sound, start sound. You can stop all sounds. You can change the pitch. See. Change the pitch. You can set the pitch. You can create sound effects. You can change volume. You can change volume. Plus, if I have the sound already, let me just put the sound here. Sound. Change the volume. You can set the volume to 100%. All right, so I've discussed events here. Controls. These are also very important for, I told us about conditional statements and loops. Let me just trash all this. So, conditional statements and loops. You can use this to control your programs. You can give conditions. You can give effects, a number of occurrence like that. For instance, this wait 1 second will allow the program to wait if it's too fast. For instance, let me just get a sprite here from dance. Let me pick the ballerina. All right, the ballerina girl. Say, okay, I put something like a flat click, forever, as change costume forever. I go to looks, said, okay, next costume. I said you should do that forever. You can see that it's too fast. So, but with the wait, I can control the wait, the time. Let me set it to, this is seconds. Let me set it to 0.5 seconds, 0.5 of a second. And I put it here. You can see that it actually slows it down. So you use it to control. And then repeat, you can repeat for a number of times. Let me stop this program. Just put this in a repeat 20 times. 20. I put this. So you should run this. So you do this for 20 times, change costume 20 times, waiting 0.5 seconds. And that's it. Once it's 20 to stop. All right, so you can change the figure as you see fit. If condition, that's if. This if is a conditional statement. Now, if a condition, usually a Boolean, when we say Boolean, I'm sure you already know Boolean is like a binary, like two conditions. If you did not meet this condition, you have to meet this condition. You don't meet any of the, you have to meet one of the conditions. So it's usually Boolean. When you see this hexagon, yes, I'm right, hexagon shape here, that's where the condition will be. The condition has to be a Boolean. And then we look at a sample of a Boolean condition under sensing. Okay, look at it. This is if touching color. Let me see this color. I want to pick this color. If I click on this pen tool, let me pick this color. All right. So I've picked the color. If touching this color, stop. Let me put stop all. Stop all should be here. Stop all. And then I put move. Then I put my forever. And in that forever, I put move 10 steps. So this sprite is actually going to move 10 steps. When it touches this green, it will stop all. You see, touches the green and it stopped. Touches the green and it stopped. All right, so you use that condition to use the if to do that. And then we have the if then else. If then else, do this. If touching color green, stop. Else, move on. Something like that. So you can use the if then else. And then we have wait until. You can wait until a condition has been fulfilled. And repeat until you have stopped all. You stop all. When I start as a clone, when it starts as a clone, you understand that in the future, you can create a clone of yourself. That's the sprites. And then you can delete clone. Then we go to the sensing. Let me trash all this. Let me keep my if then. The sensing is actually, some of them are Boolean expression. The sense changes and they react based on it. For instance, we have if touching mouse. I said if touching edge, if touching sprite, if touching my sprite, right? You can say if touching color, or if color is touching another color. Then, or distance to mouse, if the distance to mouse is accept input. All right, so this is ask me what's your name. If you ask what is your name, and then you can use this to get the answer. This is the input. Then put your name here. You can say Yinka. You can now put, let's say, okay, let me do something. Ask what's your name. If name equal Yinka, let me go back to my if. If name if I'll get an equal sign. Let me go to the operator. I'll come back here. If answer equal, then say let me just looks good boy for 5 seconds. Let's try this. Let me Yinka. Then hit this. So good boy. So to say good boy because the name is Yinka. So if, for instance, I say, okay, let me stop this. I said, okay, Abby. I can put an else. It won't say anything because I didn't put an else. It won't say good boy and it won't say anything. But if I had else, say you are wrong, then to work based on that. So that is how that works. All right, so we have the key press. When you press a key, same thing is a keyboard. You can press any key, mouse down, a mouse position, takes the mouse X position, mouse Y position. You can set the drag mode to draggable. If you say not draggable, you can't drag it. You can actually drag it here, but when it's running, you cannot drag it. Loudness, timer, reset, all these we are going to use. And then we have the operators. The general mathematical operator, we have the addition, say 15 plus 5. The answer will be 20. So similarly, the minus, the multiply, the division, pick a random number from 0 to 10. Say pick a random number from 0 to 10. can pick 3, can pick 2, can pick any number, 7, between 1 and 10. All right, so we have the less than, the greater than, the greater than, the less than, the equal to. You have the and, the or, the not operator. You have the joiner, and join 2 words together. Apple, banana, you should join it together. And then we have the letter 1 of apple will be A. If you see letter 3 of apple, will be what? P, right? So that's the length of a word, maybe the length of comprehension. So to give you the length is 13, to count it. All right, we have the mode. The mode is the remainder. For instance, 13.56, the mode. So I will explain it. The mode is actually the remainder. And we'll look at it when we, then rounding up, it will round up the number. These are other operators that you can use: mathematical, absolute value, plus, square root, sine, cosine, tangent, asine, that's arcsine, cosine, arctangent, you know, in, log, exponential, and so on. All right, so also finally, we have variables where you can create your own variable. You can create a variable like scores. Let me just create a variable. Let me make a variable. I call it scores. For all sprites, that's all the sprites. When I say for all sprites, it means this scores will work for this current sprite, which is ballerina. It will work for this my sprite, and it will work for sprite 1. Let's say I create another variable for, let me call it cat score. And I said for this sprite only. Okay, so it will only work for the cat. When you come here, it won't work here, and it won't work here. It will only work for the cat. And then when you create a variable, you can set your variable. These are the, you can set the variables, scores. You can't work here because I can't use it, but when I come here and I click on set variable, I can see the cat is there too, the cat score, because it's working for the cat. All right. So you can change your variable, you can show variable, you can hide variable. And then here you can make blocks. You can create your own blocks. You know, all this that we're seeing, they are blocks, all this. So you can actually create your own block and use it. You can create a general block like this. This is a variable, this label. Then here you can add an input. You can add a Boolean. You can make use of any kind, create a variables here. So then we'll look at that at the end of the program. All right, so thank you all for this class. So we'll continue from here and we'll be writing programs. So I want you to go over this and understand all the blocks, understand how you use the blocks, the costumes, how you create your design view, how you use your properties, how you use your backdrops and everything. Practice it too, and then we'll be making use of it as we continue. Thank you very much for this class. That's been wonderful. So I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.